Hello and welcome to another Eureka Blu-ray update for 2024. It's been a while since I did the last one, so quite a substantial amount of titles have stacked up in the meantime. I think we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 titles, which I think encompasses at least 15 films. There's quite a few multiples. Anyway, so we're going to do the classics first, which is the non-MOC stuff, the Eureka Classics range, and then we'll end with the Masters of Cinema titles that have come out in the past few months or so. The first one is actually a very unique title, Beast Fighter. So this includes two films starring the great Shinichi Chiba, and they encompass Karate Bullfighter and Karate Bear Fighter. Two crazy sounding films from the 1970s, both from 1975 actually. Now I'm actually cooking up a big Sonny Chiba video. Currently it's going to be called something to the effect of 6 Nights with Sonny Chiba, a Blu-ray marathon vlog. So that will be coming, and this will be included. But this is a special one because this is the first ever Region A only Eureka Blu-ray release. So they've dipped their toes in the North American market and have done for quite a while now. I think at least 4 or 5 months. And here's kind of the inside here with the these films sound crazy. I think there is in the sequel, the second film, I think, Karate Bear Fighter, Sonny Chiba does in fact fight a bear, which I'm assuming is in a bear suit. So I haven't got to these two yet. I'm kind of eagerly awaiting the Sonny Chiba project to kind of fully finish and wrap up, and then I can put it all together and show you my thoughts on 6 Sonny Chiba movies, maybe 7. I might throw in another one there. So I'm not sure why this one in particular was Region A only, but like I said, so they've started doing Region A releases, but they've all been kind of in the UK as well, so kind of global releases, so to speak. But this one in particular was only available for Region A, so this is not available in Region B format. I should say, because I'm trying to rattle through these, but I should mention that this has a couple of new featurettes and video essays and commentaries on both films by Mike Lida and Arne Venema, and 2 discs, one for each film, which is very good. And I'll show you this because you can see the image of Sonny Chiba there kicking the bear in the face. I can't wait to check these out. These are in no real order, by the way. I just grabbed them off the shelf. But this one I will be doing a dedicated video for because I've gone through everything on this disc, and it is absolutely incredible. We have A Man Called Tiger, starring Jimmy Wong Yu, 1973. So this is one of those films that very much came in the wake of Bruce Lee. It wasn't after Bruce Lee had died though, so I think this is kind of like Bruceploitation before Bruce Lee passed away. But I believe this was a film that he was going to work on with Lo Wei, and then Jimmy Wong Yu was brought in. But I loved this film. Like I didn't know what to expect, and it's not really that action packed, but it makes every fight scene is more impactful because of it. I think it's just a really well done story set in Japan. Jimmy Wong Yu is a guy who comes in to find out what happened to his father, who died under suspicious circumstances, and he gets involved in kind of the Yakuza. And man, there's just great characters, the intrigue of the plot, the opening credits, and they've really done some great work on this particular Blu-ray release, where reconstructing the original titles for the opening of the film, even down to like the telecine wobble of the text. For me it was imperceptible, like it looked like the original titles for the film. And then I later read that those were recreated by, I think, Brandon Bentley. And I messaged him and I said, did you put in a little wobble there to simulate the effect of the film? And he said, yeah, I did do that. So, that's the level of detail going into this and restoring the audio. This is a full version of the film that I don't think has been available before on Blu-ray. And it also includes the shorter, cut-down version. But it has like the most complete version of the film I think that's ever been seen. It's an hour and 52 minutes. Some great commentaries on there too. I will be talking about this in more depth in the future as well. So I was not expecting too much with that one, but I ended up coming away from it really enjoying it. and some of the fight scenes are pretty brutal, especially towards the end. There's like a fight with these axe wielding gang members that's pretty pretty brutal, like I say. The next one I have done a full review on my channel for, and I'm really happy about that because it's one that, again, kind of came out of nowhere and I didn't know what to expect. I ended up loving it, and it is The Double Crossers. And this is actually also another kind of quasi Bruceploitation film. I forget the name of the guy who stars in the lead in this. Shin Il-rong, yeah. So he is a Korean star who, again, was they brought someone in who would kind of be Bruce Lee. This is after Bruce Lee passed away in 1976, directed by Jong Chang-hwa. And this is about a guy, I believe is it Thailand or Indonesia, where the kind of second half of the film is set. His father gets killed, and so he's basically trying to, it's a vengeance movie. I'm trying to find out, where was it? But it's a beautiful location in the second half of the film. And we have Michael Chan Wai-man as well as this great villain. Like, it's just, I love the characters, I love the story, the scenery was beautiful, the action scenes are great. There's a great chase sequence towards the end as well. Again, I've done a full review with the clips and everything, but this one I was hugely surprised by, because I was like, okay, I don't really know any of the people in this. And again, it looks like, let's get a guy who looks a bit like Bruce Lee and kind of throw him into the... It felt, to me, better than a Bruce Lee film. Obviously, the action and the presence of the leading star is nowhere near Bruce Lee, but I just think as a film, now that I'm seeing some of these kind of imitations, so to speak, I kind of think that they're better films than the Bruce Lee films themselves, which I've never loved. And I'm thinking specifically of The Big Boss and Fist of Fury. But okay, this is super limited. I don't know if this happened ever before in the history of Eureka. Correct me if I'm wrong. But this wasn't like an instant sellout. I think it was up for a couple of weeks and then it was gone. So months in advance, this thing was out of print on arrival. Future Cops. Gorgeous release. I love this slipcover, by the way. I should give you closer looks at these. If it'll focus. There you go. Man, that shit. So this is basically Street Fighter without the copyright agreement in place. So Ken is Kent and so on. But absolutely wild. Wong Jing. He also made City Hunter the same year this came out, 1993, with the famous sequence that was a licensed Street Fighter sequence with Jackie Chan playing Chun-Li, and it was kind of a crazy sequence in the middle of the movie. But this is an entire kind of whole story that's like time travel. It's like basically Street Fighter characters without saying it's Street Fighter characters. A high school comedy. It's bonkers, but the release is absolutely gorgeous. It's from the slipcover down to, you get a poster with that artwork, and there's even more stuff here as well. I just love the design of everything here. The only thing that's kind of interesting, I didn't even look at that since I got it in, but it does say on the back a 1080p HD presentation of the film from a studio supplied scan of the original film negative. So they basically, Eureka were like right really up front at the beginning when this thing was announced. They said that we weren't able to restore this film to our liking, and that they weren't allowed to do more work on it, and that they basically had to kind of, love it or leave it as far as the transfer for this film. So they basically said it's not up to our usual standards, but we felt like this film deserved a release anyway, and it might be the only chance that it does get to have a release. So it was limited to 1,000 copies. Again, it's gone now. You can look on eBay and find people selling it for ridiculous prices, but yeah, Future Cops. And I will say, looking at the transfer, yeah, it's been interesting seeing the thoughts on it, because some people feel like it looks great, some people think it looks terrible. I'm somewhere in the middle. I think it looks pretty decent, but also I'm just appreciating that a lot of these Hong Kong films, some of them just don't have any good releases and likely never will. So anything that comes along that has like a nice package with some extras and all that kind of stuff, for me is worth putting out there, even if maybe like the source transfer isn't amazing. And so I'm really glad that they released it and they decided not to just drop the idea of putting a Blu-ray out of it. This one from 1983, directed by Brandy Yuen, The Champions. Yuen Bu as this guy who, in a very strange set of circumstances, ends up leaving home, but he's incredibly adept with his feet, and so he ends up falling into this football crowd, and he ends up joining a football team and being amazing at football. But it's also this kind of I don't know, it's an action comedy with football elements. This is awesome. I loved this film. Like, I just was smiling the whole time pretty much. And there's great extras on this. There's a great CFK extra about the Hong Kong celebrity football team and the history of that, and putting together like a dream team of all the famous actors who've been in the Hong Kong celebrity football team. So, and then there's a couple of really good commentaries. I'll do a separate video talking about this one. But I just, not being a football fan, I was like, okay, we'll see how this is. But it was just so inventive, and we got the Yuen clan behind it, and we'll talk about that more in a second. In fact, this is a neatly tied selection of Yuen clan films here. So Brandy Yuen directed this, and I'm loving learning about the Yuen clan through these new releases. So if you're unfamiliar, who's the patriarch of the Yuen family? Simon Yuen, I think. Su Ting, I think, who plays the drunken master in Drunken Master with Jackie Chan. He's the guy who trains Jackie Chan in that film and Snake and the Eagle Shadow. And he had all these sons who came into the film business. So there's Brandy Yuen, there's Yun Chung Yan, there's Yoon Sun Yi, Brandy Yuen, I think I already mentioned, Yoon Woo Ping, who is probably the most famous of all of them for kind of crossing over to America and doing fight choreography on stuff like the Matrix films, the Kill Bill movies, being a director in his own right. And yeah, so there's all these kind of, and Yoon Bu is not a part of that. So there's kind of two separate Yoon clans, so to speak, and there's a story behind that, but that's for another time. But anyway, so the Yoon clan films, there's just such a command of ingenuity in choreography and staging, and the football scenes in this are just so much fun, but also just the characters. I really love the characters and the friendships, and even Dick Wei, who plays the villain in this film, he's such a fun villain. He is so fun to watch in this film. It's a great film, and it even has a second audio track, which is the Japanese track, which includes different music and the theme song sung by Yoon Bu in English on the Japanese version. Figure that one out. Great release and a great film. And then these last two are kind of form a loose trilogy of films. So we have The Miracle Fighters from the Yuen clan. This one's directed by Yoon Woo Ping. And then we have Two Taoist Tales. So this includes the films Taoism Drunkard and The Young Taoism Fighter. So one of these is directed by Yoon Chung Yan, and the other one is directed by Chen Shihua. I don't know who that is. I'll find out more when I get through the second disc. I've only watched the first one in this set, and I have watched The Miracle Fighters, and I've talked about it in a video on the channel. So this film is absolutely fucking bonkers, and I love it. Oh my god. This one's a real Yuen clan joint, so to speak. They're all over the film. Oh, Yoon Yat Cho is another one, this guy here. He's the lead star of, I think, all three of these films, actually. So this is like supernatural, Taoist priest, action, revenge, it throws so many elements in there. And what I really loved about this film was the final kind of, the test. It's almost like the end of Harry Potter or something, with all the things he has to do at the end of the first one, or just like a video game, like the final boss stages of like all these different like obstacles and fights that he has to go through, but it's just this mystical, wonderful, ridiculously entertaining film, and focuses around Yoon Yat Cho's character, who is a guy who takes up the mantle basically to avenge his master's death. But he's trained by these two old Taoist priests who are just so much fun. I think Brian Leung and Yoon Chung Yan play these. And Yoon Chung Yan is a guy, and he plays an old woman in this, and he's so much fun. He's kind of a master of disguise, and it's just... you've got two commentaries on here, extras, interviews. It's, man... It's just a great time to get into this stuff, to get into any stuff really, with these boutique Blu-ray labels who are just putting so much effort into curating all of this stuff. So Two Taoist Tales. I've watched the first one, Taoism Drunkard. which is directed by Yoon Chung-yan, and he plays two characters in the film as well as directing it. And what a character actor that this guy is! Like, he's just crazy in this one. And Yoon Yat-chor is also the kind of lead, and it's another one that's just absolutely bonkers. It's way more comedic than the Miracle Fighters, and I think technically these two films are the Miracle Fighters 3 and 4. There was a second one that Yoon Woo-ping also directed, but that I don't think the rights are kind of available for that one. But they're all kind of loosely sequelized anyway. There's no real continuity between characters, just the same actors playing similar parts in kind of similar stories. But again, the inventiveness of some of this stuff and the fight choreography is just mental. Like, it's, yeah, it you'll have a great time watching these films, and you might scratch your head a few times, but it's well worth the journey. And this gorgeous slipcover here that really captures the vibrancy of the films too, I think. And you have Yoon Sun-yi playing the villain in Daozum Jonka. He's such a good villain. He does the great, like, villainous laugh perfectly. But, you're seeing, like, at one point in this film, you're seeing three of the Yoon brothers fighting each other in a fight scene, and that's just cool itself, I think, and it's just so fun to watch. Now we have 4 MOC titles to talk about. One I still haven't got to. I just had this period in the middle of the year where a friend of mine passed away, and I spent about 3 weeks making this tribute video for him, this big 4-hour epic thing. It just felt like something I needed to do, and so that was right when this came out, and it's just been on the back burner ever since. There's 3 films in it, so I desperately need to catch up with this one, but this is a 3-film set which encompasses spine numbers 289, 290, and 291 in the Masters of Cinema collection, The Valiant Red Peony. And I think it also says Red Peony Gambler 1 through 3. So, yeah, I don't know much about these films, actually. Obviously, I can recognize now 10? I'll leave that in for free. Ken Takakura on the front, who I've just become a huge fan of in the past year or so, when I'm in focus. Film is out of focus? Film is out of focus? Okay, there we go. I think. Feels like the color's drained away as well. I feel like my camera's automatic white balancing is... Oh, there you go. Is that the color coming back in? I think. Yeah, okay. It doesn't help when I throw Blu-rays into the... covering the lens of everything. So, Red Peony Gambler 1 through 3. 2-disc set with 3 films. And I'm really enjoying this Japanese stuff that I've been watching lately. Like Wolves, Pigs, and Men, which we'll be talking about in a second. Nice kind of inside cover there. That's for the first film, I believe. So I think that on the inside you do get alternate covers if you want to flip it around for the other films. So that's Red Peony Gambler 3, for example. So it's nice that they offer that. And yeah, 2 discs, like I said. I believe Ken Takakura is in one of them, not in all 3 of them. But yeah, so okay, so it's a cornerstone of the Ninkyo Eiga genre. So Ninkyo was kind of like the honorable kind of Yakuza genre, where you would have films focused on like gang members, but gang members with a heart, who did things with honor and, weren't so ruthless and stuff, or kind of free of any kind of morality. So I guess that's where this kind of, but having that kind of the female lead star is interesting to me. Set during the Meiji era. And who is the woman who plays the kind of the lead character? It's talking about the directors. Just says Fuji, but it's here you go, Junko Fuji. I knew that the name was on the tip of my tongue, and it was just buried at the top in the first paragraph. So Junko Fuji plays this character, and she plays it in 5 more films after this as well. There are audio commentary tracks on all 3 films. One from Chris Poggiali, one from Mike Leader, Arne Venema, one from Tom Mez. I love Tom Mez's commentary, so that's great. And a Tony Raines piece on the films, which is, just diamond gold stuff every single time. He's just great. So I'm looking forward to these. I'm purposely not looking too much into what's going on, but it seems very much like there are, again, the Ninkyo elements, the Gambler movie elements as well, and these are 60s movies, right? 1968 and 1969. So I'm very excited to get into them. It's just finding the time and to give it the proper time that it deserves. And being an MOC release, I'll probably do in-depth Blu-ray reviews of all three of those films. This one you've heard me waffle on about for far too long, and is the Laurel and Hardy Silent Years 1927 Year 1 volume. It doesn't say Year 1 on it, it just says the Silent Years 1927. They now have officially announced the next set. So this one is spine number 294. Spine number 295 will be Laurel and Hardy, the Silent Years 1928. They've confirmed that, shown us the artwork, and it will be coming out in early 2025, they say, which is what I expected. And as I said in the booklet for this, Paul Merton does kind of let slip that there's going to be a second volume. So this contains all the silent films that Laurel and Hardy did in 1927 and a few before that. It includes the very first film they starred in together, which I think is The Lucky Dog, 1921, if I remember correctly. And I have been filming an epic review of this set that is probably going to be months in production. But I've filmed 2 hours worth of discussions on these films so far. I think there's 15 films in here, maybe 14. And you can just, if you haven't seen it or you haven't heard me talk about it, just look at the extras on the back. I mean, special 2-disc Blu-ray edition. This is everything you get in. It's absolutely insane. I would say, and I've said before in a previous video, this is for me one of my favorite Blu-ray releases of all time. Seeing these films and seeing the evolution of these characters on screen is, again, gold. It's absolutely gold. It's magical. The extras are incredible. There's a 70-minute interview with Stan Laurel on this audio interview that was just gripping and so captivating. It felt like it shouldn't exist. Like, it was just hearing him talk about getting his start in the entertainment industry, in show business, as he called it, in like the 1900s and 1910s, you know, working with Chaplin, going to America, all the steps. I mean, just an amazing release that I think really everyone should have. You know, I just think if you're a serious like film history lover, you should have that in your collection. And even if you don't like Laurel and Hardy, you should learn more about them, because their place in film history is so incredibly interesting to me, because they were guys who started in the silent era and really came into their own in the sound era, and that's what made them huge stars. It usually never happened that way. You know, Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, Harold Lloyd, none of them really kind of flourished once the sound era came in, especially not, you know, Buster Keaton. And their most famous works in retrospect are kind of the silent stuff. I would always argue that Chaplin, I think, worked better in sound. I think his voice is amazing, and I think his penchant for sentimentality works better in his sound films. At times, I will say that he masterfully worked in some of those elements in, you know, The Kid and The Gold Rush and The Circus a little bit, and of course Modern Times, City Lights, but I think his best work is in The Great Dictator and Limelight. So anyway, but it's just so interesting to me that Laurel and Hardy, you can see it coming together in that Blu-ray set in those films, but you know that once the sound era hits, you know, that's when they really exploded. So it's just interesting to me how that worked out for them and not for the others who, you know, their most famous stuff kind of stayed in the silent era. We have a couple of films from Kinji Fukasaku. This one I've talked about before in a video on Message from Space. It's the Japanese Star Wars. I mean, there's not much more you need to know about it than that. It was rushed out, but so much money and work and care went into it, and I absolutely love this film so much. I watched it twice, once with the original Japanese, once with the English track, because of the English track, the English or the American actors, their actual voices are retained on the film, which is super interesting. I don't think I've ever seen that before. It must have happened elsewhere, but it was a first for me to see the American actors actually speaking their own dialogue and then hearing. And I wish there was a hybrid track almost where you could kind of get the Japanese and the English, but man, this is just so much fun. An amazing release. I love the artwork. The extras are fantastic. Great commentary on this by Tom Mayers. There's a really good making of documentary. A good piece by Patrick Macias. That was really good. You know, just, and you get like a nice poster in this, and I just was such a fan of this film, and it for me was like, it's the kind of campy space opera stuff that made Star Wars great. And yes, in some ways this is a Star Wars ripoff, but in other senses it's based on a Japanese kind of folk story and has other elements in it, and kind of blends a lot of different things, much in the same way that Star Wars blended a lot of things together. So I ended up loving that so much more than I thought I would. And then finally, we have a Blu-ray that I've done an extensive review of. It was almost an hour long. I did manage to cut it down to 50 minutes. It is Wolves, Pigs, and Men. I should mention, Message from Space was spine number 292, and this one is 293. So Kinji Fukasaku's Wolves, Pigs, and Men, 1964, I believe. Yes, I was right. An amazing film, a hidden masterpiece in my opinion. This is about three brothers in kind of post-war Tokyo who came out of the slums, and two of them kind of left the slums and tried to make a name for themselves and a better life for themselves. The older brother, played by Rentaro Mikuni, is it? Let me see if I got that right. Rentaro Mikuni, and then the middle brother is played by the legend Ken Takakura, and then Kinyaka Kitaoji plays the younger brother, and he's the one who stayed back in the slums with their mother. And so he's got a bone to pick with his older brothers and went off and joined gangs, and one of them is part of the Yakuza, one of them is in petty gangs, and it's all about this plot to steal some money and drugs. And Ken Takakura ropes in his younger brother from the slums into this plot. And so they pull off this heist, they pull off this, they get the money and the drugs, but now the younger brother, Sabu, he decides, well, okay, there's all this money, I'm getting a tiny fraction of it, so I'm not going to give it to my brother, right? And then you got the older brother, Rentaro Mikuni, who works for the Yakuza, whose money was stolen. So these three brothers get embroiled in this really intense situation. The majority of the film plays out in this kind of shack in the slums, where Ken Takakura and his friend, his accomplice, are torturing his younger brother and his friends to get the information of where he's hidden the money and the drugs. And it's this proper just pressure cooker of an intense kind of drama, crime drama. There's elements of film noir in this, I felt like, but there's elements of just like really gritty, violent. And a lot of the violence is more implied stuff, but it gets a bit grim at times too, with some of the torture going on. Again, in terms of like everything that's ever been put on film, it's not that grim, but it's still kind of uncomfortable viewing, and the performances really sell it. As you can see on the front here, this is a lot of screaming faces in this movie, and Ken Takakura plays a pretty ruthless guy in this, but the way it toys with morality and how far would you go against your own family for your own wants and needs in desperate situations is just a really interesting morality play, I think. And it reminded me a bit of Reservoir Dogs as well, but love the film. Great Blu-ray, and with a great commentary and some nice interviews with Japanese filmmakers who worked on the film and were involved with working with Kinji Fukasaku. So just an excellent all-around Blu-ray release, I think, and highly recommended. Like, this is one I would say to people you should make a point to check it out, because I'd never heard of it before, and I think that it's an absolutely brilliant 5-star film. So Wolves, Pigs, and Men, that rounds up the Blu-ray update. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you've seen any of these, and we can talk about it further in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.